Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to have a little bit of a look at one of the weirdest cards, I'd say pair of weirdest cards you are ever going to see in the Pokemon TCG. And I mean that very sincerely. Maybe the single weirdest pair of cards you will ever see in the Pokemon TCG. They're dogs. Like actual dogs. Literal dogs. I'm not talking about Arcanine, who is very much a dog Pokemon, or Yamper, who is very much a dog Pokemon. No, I'm talking about literal, actual dogs. How cool is that? I mean, I'm hoping the answer is very, because that's what we're going to be having a chat about today, ladies and gentlemen. Literal, actual dogs. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a little bit excited. Now, I do need to give a massive shout out before we get going to the lovely Antoine Boulet. I did pretty well at translating these. Now, one of them I actually did translate entirely by myself, and I'm quite happy about that. One of them, unfortunately, I did have to hit up Antoine for a little bit of help. I feel bad. I'm supposed to be translating all these cards myself nowadays, and I largely am. The vast majority of my translations I am doing myself, but I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I just wasn't able to quite get over the finish line, which makes me a little bit sad. Again, though, I do need to stress there's two dogs here, and Jikun I got right, but unfortunately Pokey I got wrong. Boo, etc. So, what have we got? Well, let's start off with Pokey here, because Pokey is one we know a little bit more about. Wait, no. Let's actually mention what these are first. These are the dogs of Tsunekazu Ishihara, who is, of course, the president and CEO of the Pokemon Company. Yeah, that person. It's a pretty big deal, honestly, ladies and gentlemen. He is a pretty big deal. So, we've seen some Ishihara cards themselves. We'll talk about them a bit more in a minute. But let's instead have a chat about Ishihara's dog. I'm so happy that we've got cards of Ishihara's dog. It's so cool. Now, Pokey is the one that unfortunately I was unable to translate myself. What we've got here is the Pokebody Rascal. If your opponent has any cards in their lost zone, this Pokemon's attacks deal 60 more damage. So it's an anti-lost zone card. Now, one thing I think we need to point out here, if you look at the cards, they're not recent cards. Now, I can't date these exactly, but I can actually do a pretty good job, because this is very, very clearly Heart Gold Soul Silver. Like, this is very, very obviously the Heart Gold Soul Silver era. I mean, look at it next to Umbreon Prime, for instance. Incidentally, these are clearly Pokemon Prime. This is a Darkness-type Pokemon, 90 HP, weakness to fighting, resistance to psychic. It fits. It fits exactly what we would expect a Darkness-type Pokemon to be at this point in time. So, you're talking about the Heart Gold Soul Silver era. Now, if we date that a little bit, Heart Gold Soul Silver, that came around, in English at least, on February the 10th, 2010. And we had 4 sets, finishing with Triumphant, which came around on November the 3rd, 2010. So this is a card from 2010. We had 4 sets in 2010. The 4 sets we had in the calendar year 2010 were, in fact, the Heart Gold Soul Silver sets. So this is nice and easy. This is when these cards were made, but because, well, I mean, it kind of had to be, right? Because honestly, outside of that, we wouldn't have the Heart Gold Soul Silver design cards. It is interesting to note that Triumphant brought us about half of the Lost Link mini set over in Japan. The second half of it was in Call of Legends, which was a special kind of set, which wasn't really Heart Gold Soul Silver, but we hadn't yet made it into black and white. It was kind of a middle ground, so to speak. But basically, Lost Link brought the Lost Zone back into the Pokemon TCG, while also having Heart Gold, Soul Silver design cards. So basically, this would have been around the time of Lost Link. And we know that because it's a Prime border, it's a Prime template, and it includes a Lost Zone, so it kind of has to be the tail end. Couldn't be the early part of Heart Gold, Soul Silver, because the early part of Heart Gold, Soul Silver didn't really have any Lost Zone stuff. So, okay, if your opponent's got a card in the Lost Zone, you do an extra 60 damage, fine. And then 1 Darkness, 1 Colourless, you deal 60 damage, although really 120 if your opponent's got cards in the Lost Zone. If the player using this Pokemon isn't Mr. Ishihara, this attack does nothing. Now, the ability, I got a lot of it. I didn't get the Lost Zone bit, which is frankly embarrassing. I really should have. Here, I didn't get the Mr. Ishihara bit, and again, no, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I should have known better, and that makes me a little bit sad, because I know that the first kanji here is Ishi, it's stone, and I know the second one here is Hara, and I know that this is basically the kanji for surname, or Mr. it kind of works out being, so I should know that what is in these brackets are Mr. Ishihara. I tried translating these at midnight last night, and I didn't do a great job on Pokey, and I would like to apologise personally to the dog. So as a playable card, 120 for 2. To be fair, 120 for 2 back then was a pretty gosh darn good attack, and this is a basic Pokemon. So, you know, not terrible, but you were kind of relying on your opponent to have some stuff in the Lost Zone. Jikun, I am delighted to say I did do this translation all by myself. Antoine merely confirmed it was correct. And what we've got here is, when you play this card from your hand, you may use this ability. Search your deck for Ishihara's trump card, show it to your opponent and put it into your hand, and then shuffle your deck. And this is where I get very, very frustrated and very, very sad. I have no idea what Ishihara's trump card is. I don't know. I'm sorry. I have absolutely no idea whatsoever. Now, according to the lovely Matthew Arrive, who did make me aware of these cards, it was a birthday gift the previous year, but we've not seen a picture. So we know that Ishihara's trump card exists. We just have absolutely no idea what it does. As a fun little side note, the only trump card that we've ever actually seen in the Pokemon TCG was Lysander's trump card. And remember, that is a card that was so good, it literally got banned. And that came around in Phantom Forces, which wouldn't actually be released until, 4 years later, November 2014. So yeah, that is a little bit weird, frankly, ladies and gentlemen. That is a little bit weird. This was a trump card long before we had a trump card. My hope here is that it did exactly the same thing. Each player shuffles each card from his or her discard pile into his or her deck. I would love it if this was a random card they made for Ishihara's birthday, like 5 years before Lysander's trump card, but nobody bothered testing it, and then it got printed and was so good it got banned. That would make me kind of happy, I'll be honest with you. That would amuse me. Unfortunately, we don't actually have any information about Ishihara's trump card. We've never seen it, as far as I'm aware. And if anybody knows better, please, please, please let me know. But as far as I am aware, we've never seen that card, so we're missing a bit of context. But when you bench this basic Pokemon and it's 80 HP, metal Pokemon, weak to fire, resistant to psychic. It's kind of cool they're both resistant to psychic. Yeah. Basically, you get to search for that card. We just don't know what that card does. We've then got 2 energy, 40 damage. If you have Pokey on your bench, heal 40. Back then, Pokemon didn't hit as hard, but even then, 80 HP is still pretty low, so unfortunately, the healing 40, unlikely to be useful. But Poke's a pretty good attacker, and Jikun can search out a card, which might be good, but we have absolutely no idea. Also, I'm sure they don't, but I kind of really hope Ishihara got a playset of these, just in case. That would make me pretty gosh darned happy. One thing that is really cool here, you'll notice that the set symbol is a present. And we saw that on the Mega Ishihara EX that I showed you the other day. That was the last Ishihara card I showed you. Apparently these are starting to come out of the woodwork now. I hope this keeps happening. I would love to see more. And don't forget, a while ago I showed you Ishihara GX, which has actually gotten out into the world and been sold, hence having a PSA version. What I do find very interesting, that was actually an English card that was given out to a bunch of people to celebrate Ishihara's, it was a birthday or some milestone of some description. Oh yeah, 60th birthday, hence the 60 Congratulations GX. So that's how they ended up getting out. This one, I suspect, unfortunately, not. And while we're talking about this, there was Ishihara and Pikachu GX. Unfortunately, this is the only image of it I've ever seen, so we don't have a better image of it to actually figure out what it says. But look, if you're the president and CEO of the Pokemon company, you should be getting your own Pokemon cards. And now we've seen the GX, the Tag Team GX, the Mega EX, and I'm kind of loving this. Now, kind of happy news, kind of sad news. The good news is that these are an excellent, memento of beloved family pets. The sad news is, apparently, according to the lovely Matthew Arrive, who does generally know about this kind of stuff, as in, they do the research, both dogs passed away the next year at 11 and nearly 16 years old, respectively. And, I mean, look, I've lost pets. It's always very, very sad, but it is cool to have these cards as a lovely memento. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Actual, proper job, official dog Pokemon cards, at least. And when I tell you that this is one of the weirdest things we've ever seen in the Pokemon TCG, I feel very, very, very confident that that is not some kind of clickbait nonsense. This is one of the weirdest things we have ever seen. But now, ladies and gentlemen, it's over to you guys. I want to know what you think about these. I want to know if you would want cards of your dogs. And I want my dog's Pip. I would love a Pip card. I want a Pip card so badly. Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wasi. That's where we talk Pokemon and card games and Pokemon card games, all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord and chat with us about various things. And no, it doesn't have to be Pokemon. And get shout-outs on the channel like the lovely Mike, who is one of our supporters and seems like a very lovely person. So thank you very much for all the support and for being a very lovely person. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.